What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Tin Invest, where I'm your host, Jimmy Bishrat. Today we're going to be talking about a couple companies that reported earnings this past week. Some that reported stellar earnings, and others that didn't quite meet their targets. The companies we'll be talking about today is SOFI, Kura, and WeedMaps. Before we go any further, I want to make it as clear as possible that I am not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice. Everything talked about is based on my own personal knowledge, so you should never be making investment decisions based on what I say. Okay, so let's start with the earnings that didn't meet their target. WeedMaps, or more technically known as WM Technology. I'm going to spend a little bit extra time talking about this one because the response to their earnings has just been atrocious. But before diving into the numbers, let's talk about some things that WeedMaps have done more operationally, so to say. So a couple months ago, the company rolled out a new revamped app, but not much feedback has been given on the changes made. WeedMaps has also made a partnership with the basketball player Kevin Durant. This is done to help shift the stigma, I guess, but just because your favorite athlete may be invested somewhere doesn't mean it's the right decision. Then, as of most recently, WeedMaps and the rapper/weed enthusiast Burner have recently made a partnership where they're creating some sort of platform where people can discuss weed more freely. The value in this, I'm not really sure, but I guess it's another outlet for brands and consumers to get in touch. WeedMaps was also able to complete some recent acquisitions in the cannabis company Sprout and Transport Logistics Holding, which is the parent company to Canvea and CanCurrent. They also mentioned that as a part of the acquisitions, they hired the founders and teams of both companies. And well, we're directly seeing this with Jarrett Christopher, the founder and CEO of Sprout. According to Crunchbase, he now has 4 current jobs, and 2 of them include being the vice president and general manager at WeedMaps. Now, I'm not too sure if this is normal behavior. If you know, please let me know in the comments below. Overall, these acquisitions are really meant to provide more to their clients and just better the overall WeedMaps experience. Okay, now time to dive into some numbers. The main takeaway that I could really find is that WeedMaps expected their revenues to be $205 million by the end of this year. And well, after including the Q3 numbers, they're behind this target by about $66 million, which wouldn't really be a big issue because they could still reach it in Q4 if they have a strong Q4. But the issue is, WeedMaps has already projected that they will have about $50 to $52 million in Q4. So projecting the high end at 52, WeedMaps will fall about 7.5% short of what they originally expected. And well, for a SPAC to miss a target like that right out of the gates, it's gonna absolutely crush this stock. And well, that's kind of what you're seeing happening today with the stock price. Overall, this Canada reset seems to be hurting them more than expected. This is where they wiped all of the non-licensed users off of their site. But still, the US was able to see 46% revenue growth, which is good. But overall growth, it was only at 9% because of this. Now, I understand WeedMaps has seen such a massive tumble, but there's still some positives to pull from this earnings report. For one thing, the company is still debt-free, and their cash has increased to over $77 million. The company remains profitable, and they have an implied margins of over 96%, which is incredible. MAPS has also seen their average monthly revenue per paying client increase 7% compared to the prior year. Overall, they saw the monthly active users increase about 37% to the prior year. But the issue I find is that the average monthly paying client, that only increased by 2%. At the end of the day, MAPS did beat earnings, but they're still behind schedule. And if they can't get back on track, well, I could see it getting a lot worse for this stock. I think once we see more licenses handed out, and as states crack down more on the illegal shops, then I can definitely see WeedMaps getting themselves back on track. But from where things are at right now, they are not sitting in a good spot. And the fears continue to rise because I keep reading on stock twits and different places that there's some sort of share lockup that ends in December, which has investors even more worried. Look, guys, weed is still not even federally legal, and this company is still in the very early stages of its lifespan. Personally, I hope we can see this thing turn around, but to do so, MAPS is going to need to do a much better job at meeting their targets. Okay, now I want to quickly touch on some of the channel winners during this week's earnings. First off, SOFI. SOFI Tech was rising nearly 17% on Thursday after the company posted third quarter adjusted EBITDA well above analyst forecasts. And they met another quarter of record revenue, making this the company's fifth consecutive quarter of positive EBITDA. Overall, SOFI saw their net revenue on an adjusted basis increase 28% from the year earlier. But the number that stood out most to me was the fact that they saw total members rise 96% from the year prior, reaching 2.9 million users. And you can call me crazy, but I really feel like the whole new LA SoFi Stadium has something to do with the users increasing. I feel like the stadium's really turning SoFi into a household name. But then again, this is coming from a Charger fan, so maybe it's just a household name in my household. Okay, the last company I want to touch on is Kura Sushi. Now, most of you have probably never heard of that company, and if you haven't, be sure to check out my video on them. I do a pretty good job breaking down their business model and what makes them so special. But in today's episode, I just want to quickly touch on these earnings because this stock is going absolutely bananas. As of the time I started recording this video, Kura has already seen its price increase up over 27%. I think the biggest contributor to Kura's success so far is the fact that all of their 33 restaurants are operating at an indoor capacity of 100%. Kura saw total sales of $27.9 million in Q4, which is up a massive amount when being compared to $5.5 million in Q4 of last year. Overall, total sales for the 2021 year was $64.9 million, this being compared to $45.2 million in the fiscal year prior. And the company is showing strong guidance for 2022. Overall, they expect the number of total sales to increase to about 130 million and 140 million. And they also plan to open 8 to 10 new restaurants. So yeah, the company has shown growth and strong guidance. Now the question is, will they live up to it? So yeah, we've seen stocks go up over 25%, over 45% since talking about them. But we've also seen one of my favorite companies get absolutely obliterated since we've talked about it on this channel. Now, I could have easily left MAPS out of this video and only talked about the positives. But I'm not here to build this false image that I only pick winners and stocks only go up. Because guys, that's not the case here. At the end of the day, no one can predict what's going to happen in the market and nobody knows what's going to happen. Which is why when you invest in individual stocks, there is a lot of risk attached with it. So you should always be sure that you're in a financially stable position to be investing in individual stocks. I mean, for instance, with MAPS, who knows how long it's going to be on this downfall for? So who knows how long you're going to have to be able to afford to sit on these shares for? Now, am I going to go overreact and sell these shares? No. Look at the facts, guys. Weed is still federally illegal. MAPS is remaining compliant and literally they're throwing away revenue from the illegal dispensaries. So am I selling my shares? No. But am I buying more? I mean, at the moment, no, I'm not. I may dabble and grab some over the next couple weeks, but really I want to let this thing play out and see how Q4 ends. I mean, MAPS is a growth company and investors rely on meeting expectations and setting strong guidelines for the future. And it seems that MAPS has done neither of those things. Okay, well, that's all I got for you today. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts on what you think about what happens to MAPS, Kura, or SOFI going into the future. Again, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more, and always remember, the time is now.